His breath was still sour with whiskey when his mouth dropped against my shoulder. But I didn't flinch. His skin was damp against mine, trembling with the kind of guilt you only feel halfway through something you know you can't take back. His body jerked again, too fast, too deep, but I didn't let go. I held him there, anchored him. Hey everyone, and welcome back. What do you do when the line between care and craving completely shatters? Today's story explores that agonizing question. If you're ready, press 1 in the comments, and let's dive in. My name is Clara. I'm 41, divorced for 4 years, and a mother of 2. I run a catering business and own a perfectly kept suburban kitchen that looks like it came from a magazine cover. My life is a series of faked smiles at PTA fundraisers and bland conversations about summer camps and gluten-free snacks. I know how to keep my voice level when my ex-husband texts at 11 p.m. asking for a favor, even though he should have stopped needing me years ago. What I didn't know until tonight was what it would feel like to have someone want me with that kind of hunger, the kind that shakes in your hands and makes you forget your last name, the kind that makes you forget that the man lying across your chest is someone you were supposed to save. His name is Evan, 26. He was my nephew's best friend growing up. We hadn't seen him in a while until a few months ago when he moved back home. His mom, Sharon, a dear friend of mine, called me in a moment of desperation. She asked if I could keep an eye on him while he got his head right. She said he'd been through something heavy, the kind of vague trouble no one spells out. I didn't ask questions. I agreed. He started showing up once a week, sometimes for dinner, sometimes just to sit on the back porch and smoke those awful clove cigarettes. He claimed he was trying to quit. I never minded. He was polite, quiet, and sad in that way you don't want to say out loud. One night I found him shaking on my porch steps, drunk, drenched, and bleeding from one knuckle like he'd punched a wall or a memory. I brought him inside, sat him down, and made him drink water. I remember kneeling in front of him with a damp rag, wiping his hand clean. He whispered, "I didn't come here to mess anything up." And I said, "You didn't." But that was a lie, because something shifted in me that night, something I hadn't felt in years. The urge to hold someone, to matter, to be the thing someone leaned on when they were too tired to stand on their own. What would you do if the one person you were supposed to protect was the one you ended up craving in secret? After that night, he started coming around more. Stayed longer, let his eyes linger when I leaned over the sink, let his fingers brush my wrist when I handed him a plate. Let the silence between us grow thicker, warmer, harder to breathe through. Then tonight happened. He showed up shaking, said he'd messed up again, slurred something about how he didn't know where else to go. I brought him inside, let him sit on the kitchen floor while I made coffee, and watched him fall apart in real time. When he started crying, I touched his shoulder. When he leaned into me, I wrapped my arms around him. He said, "I'm tired of feeling like a burden." And I whispered, "You're not." I wish I could say I stopped it there, that I helped him to the couch and went back upstairs like a responsible adult. But I didn't. I wiped his face. I kissed his temple. He turned into me like a man starved, and I let him. I laid him down, pulled the blanket over us, and held his face in my hands while he pressed himself into me like he was asking for permission and forgiveness at the same time. I could feel him twitching inside me, every movement like a silent question, and I answered with the way I gripped his arms, the way I stayed. I didn't let go. Even when the guilt landed heavy in my lungs, even when the tears welled up and I had to turn my head to keep him from seeing. The next morning, I pretended to sleep as the sun pushed through the blinds. Evan moved quietly, too quietly. I heard the rustle of the blanket, the shift of his breath, the soft creak of my hardwood floor under his weight. He didn't say anything, didn't even try to touch me again. The door clicked shut behind him, and I just lay there, blanketed in his scent and my shame. I didn't cry. I didn't move for nearly an hour. My body still ached from the weight of him, the pressure, the way his chest collapsed into mine, like he'd been holding himself up for too long. I kept thinking about the way he'd touched my back, like he was afraid it might disappear. I was supposed to be helping him. I'm the one people call when they don't know what to do. The one who listens calmly, makes lists, shows up early, stays late. The woman who holds it all together, even when everything inside her has gone soft and hollow. I have a daughter in college, a son in trade school. I keep a fridge full of groceries and my ex-husband's last name because changing it felt like too much work. I haven't been touched in years, not gently, not like that. It started simply. Evan moved back to town 6 months ago. His mom, Sharon, called me after his third failed attempt at rehab, said she didn't know what else to do. She said he trusted me, said he used to talk about how safe our house felt, how it was the only place growing up where no one yelled. I didn't hesitate. He looked rough when I saw him, gaunt, quiet, still handsome but older somehow, tired in his bones. The first few visits were short. I kept it light, fed him, let him sit outside and breathe air that didn't come from a bar or a treatment center. He never said much, but I saw it in his eyes, that ache, that itch under the surface. Then one night he asked if I had any coffee. It was almost midnight. I was in pajamas. I should have said no. Instead, I brewed a pot. We sat in the kitchen like two insomniacs who'd seen too much and didn't know what to say about it. He asked about my ex. I gave him the cleaned-up version. He listened like it mattered. "You don't seem angry," he said after a long pause. "I don't have the energy for angry," I told him. "I've got bills and knees that hurt when it rains." Anger just slows me down. He smiled at that. After that night, he came by once a week, then twice. Sometimes he helped with yard work. Sometimes we just sat in silence. Once he fixed the track light above the stove and I thanked him with lasagna I hadn't made for anyone in a long time. There was nothing flirtatious about it, at least not at first. But over time, something shifted. He'd stared too long when I leaned over the oven. His fingers brushed my wrist when I passed him a plate and didn't pull away right away. We shared quiet looks when the conversation got too honest. He noticed the way I wore my hair differently. I noticed the way his voice dropped when he was tired. I told myself it wasn't a threat, that he was just lonely and needed a soft place to land. I wasn't prepared for how much I wanted to be that place. The guilt started early, long before he ever touched me. It started the night I found myself checking the mirror before he arrived, switching into a better top, pinching color into my cheeks. That was when I knew, but I didn't stop him, and I didn't stop myself either. The night before everything happened, he called me, said he was in trouble, said he didn't want to use, but couldn't stop shaking. He didn't ask to come over. He just said he didn't know where else to go, and I told him to come here. When he showed up, I could smell the alcohol on him before he even stepped through the door. It wasn't much, not like before, but enough to make his eyes glassy and his words too soft. "I messed up," he said. I got tired." He looked up at me like he was still a little boy, like I had some answer he'd never learned. I didn't. But I pulled him in anyway, sat him down, wiped his face, let him hold my wrist when his hands wouldn't stop shaking. "I shouldn't be here," he mumbled into my lap, and I said, "You're okay," but he wasn't. He clung to me like he was drowning, and part of me, God help me, part of me liked it. I didn't pull away when he pressed his face into my stomach, didn't push him off when his arms wrapped around my waist. I remember running my fingers through his hair. Soft, slow, like I was comforting a child, like I was trying to believe it was innocent. It wasn't. I wish I could say I hadn't thought about what it might feel like, but the truth is, I had. Quietly, shamefully, often. And when it happened, when he looked up at me and reached for my hand, like he couldn't stand on his own, I didn't say no. I didn't say anything. I just took him upstairs, let him lie down, and when he pulled me down with him, I stayed. I stayed through every shudder, every breathless whisper, every twitch of his body against mine. I stayed because I wanted to, and because I knew, even in the middle of it, that I'd never be able to take it back. The next day, I expected silence, regret, maybe even avoidance. But he came back. He knocked once, then let himself in, like he had a right to. I was in the kitchen slicing carrots. I didn't look up right away. I didn't know how to. He stepped close. Not too close, just enough that I could feel him there. "Hey," he said, like nothing had happened. "Hey," I said back, barely above a whisper. Then we stood in that awful quiet, not awkward, waited. I waited for him to bring it up, to say anything, but he didn't. He just asked if I had any more of that tea he liked and walked to the cabinet like we were back to normal. Except nothing was normal. The knife trembled a little in my hand, not enough to see, but enough to feel. My breath wasn't right, too shallow, my skin too warm. I watched him from the corner of my eye as he leaned against the counter. Hair damp, clean t-shirt, that boyish look in his face again, disarming, tired, hungry in some unspoken way. "I didn't plan for it to happen like that," he said finally. I stopped cutting. He wasn't looking at me, just staring at the fridge like it held answers. "I know," I said. "Me neither." He looked down. "But I don't regret it." I turned to face him then. "Don't say that." "Why not?" "Because if we start saying that, we won't stop." He exhaled through his nose. "Maybe we're already too far in." I couldn't answer, so I went back to slicing. The truth is, I couldn't stop thinking about it either. His hand on my ribs, his breath catching at my neck, the way he kept whispering, "Are you okay?" Like he needed me to be sure. The way I nodded yes, even when I didn't know what yes meant anymore. But mostly, I remembered the moment afterward, when he just held me, when neither of us moved, when his chest pressed into my back, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years, not just wanted, but needed. Like I was his reason for staying above water. I hated how much I liked it. If you've ever lived with a secret that made you ache and burn at the same time, this story might speak to you more than you'd like. Press 1 if you can relate, and please don't forget to subscribe. After that, we kept circling each other. He'd come over to fix the screen door, but end up staying to talk about childhood memories we weren't supposed to share anymore. I'd make dinner and pretend it was just for me, but always made enough for two. He never touched me again, not with his hands, but his words, his presence. They filled the space like fingers tracing invisible lines across my skin. One night, we watched a movie. I sat on the couch, and he sat too close. "I can move," he said quietly, but I didn't ask him to. When the credits rolled, I stood up too fast. I could feel the pull in the air behind me like I'd left something unfinished. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Just tired." "You sure that's all?" I turned then, hands still on the back of the couch. "You don't get to ask me that." He frowned. Why not? Because I'm trying to be the adult here. He stood, walked closer. So was I. His eyes locked on mine. That unbearable tension stretched between us again like an elastic pulled too tight, and just one breath would snap it. Do you think about it? He asked. That night, I looked away. I try not to, but you do. I didn't answer. He stepped closer. I do. I closed my eyes. Evan, I wake up thinking about it. About how you looked at me like I wasn't broken. My breath hitched. I wasn't trying to take advantage, he said. I swear I wasn't. I know, but I felt different. With you, not small, not like a screw-up. I turned toward him, the room suddenly too warm. This isn't fair, I said. Nothing about this is fair. His hand brushed mine, light. Barely a touch. I can't, I whispered. But you want to. My throat tightened. That's not the point, isn't it? And then it happened again. Not the act itself, but something worse. I let him stay. Again, he didn't kiss me, didn't hold me. Just sat there while I poured tea with shaking hands. Just listened to me talk about my daughter's upcoming visit, about the roof leak, about nothing. And I let it happen. I let the closeness become normal. The next afternoon, I found one of his sweaters in the laundry basket. That was the moment I realized how dangerous this had become. He had a place here now. A rhythm, a scent that lingered on my couch pillows and in the folds of my robe. He was filling spaces that no one was supposed to. And I couldn't pull away anymore. I tried. God knows I tried. I stopped texting first. Didn't answer when he knocked one night, but then he sent one message. I miss hearing your voice. And I caved because I missed his too. I missed being seen, touched, held like I wasn't an afterthought or an obligation. I missed being more than someone's former wife and someone else's reliable friend. But every moment I gave him, it stole something I couldn't put back. The rain hit hard that night, fat drops pounding the windows like someone wanted in. I remember the sound more than anything, not thunder, not wind. Just that steady percussion of water against glass while I stood at the kitchen sink, pretending not to wait for him. He hadn't texted in 2 days. I told myself that was good. Smart. It needed to stop. But when I heard the knock, just one, low and familiar, I didn't hesitate. I opened the door and there he was, drenched, shaking, eyes red-rimmed and wild with something he couldn't name. I tried not to come, Evan said. I got halfway down the street and turned back. I didn't answer, I just stepped aside. He walked in, slow, dripping on the mat, his clothes clinging to his skin. He didn't even look at me, just kept his gaze down, shoulders tight, like he'd been carrying something too long. I'm not okay, he said quietly. I nodded. I can tell. He looked up then, really looked. And whatever restraint I thought I had, it slipped, just like that, like a dam cracking under too much silence. Did I ruin it? He asked. No, I whispered, but I think I'm about to. He didn't speak. He just moved toward me, wet clothes still clinging, every step heavy with meaning. When he reached me, his hand came up, slow, hesitant. He brushed a knuckle down my cheek. It was cold, rough, but it made my whole body go warm. I don't want to feel this way, I said. I didn't come here to ask you to. Then why are you here? He swallowed. Because I can't stop needing you. The first kiss didn't land where it was supposed to. It hit the corner of my mouth, shaky, misplaced. Our noses bumped, my breath caught. I almost laughed. But then his arms were around me and mine around him. And the sound that left my chest was something I didn't know how to hide anymore. His lips found mine again, right this time. Deep. Raw. Familiar now. His mouth was urgent, his hands cautious. Like he still thought I might push him away. I didn't. I led him upstairs. Not like before, rushed and reckless. This time I moved slow, deliberate, turned on the hallway lamp. Closed the bedroom door. He stood at the edge of the bed, dripping onto the floor, eyes locked on mine like he needed me to speak first. "You can still leave," I said. He shook his head. "I won't." I stepped toward him, took his shirt in both hands, and peeled it up over his head. It stuck to his skin, heavy with rain. I let it fall to the floor. He didn't touch me, just stood there, arms slightly out, breath uneven. I ran my hands up his chest, not to tease, to memorize. His skin was warm beneath the damp. His muscles tensed under my touch, like he wasn't used to being handled this gently. "You're still shaking," I whispered. He exhaled, shaky and sharp. "I'm scared you'll disappear after." I didn't answer. I just pulled him in. He kissed me like he was holding his breath, like I was the air, like the guilt hadn't caught up yet. His hand slid up my back, gripped too tight at first, then softened. I could feel him breathing into my neck, shaky, broken. "I didn't mean for this to happen," he said. "I know. I didn't come here for this, but you stayed." He nodded against my skin. I let him undress me slowly, like he wasn't sure I'd let him, like every inch he revealed was permission he didn't quite believe he deserved. When we lay down, he hovered over me, his eyes wide, chest heaving, one hand braced at my side. "I don't want to hurt you," he whispered. "You're not." I think I already did. His body trembled as he lowered onto me. He fit, like he'd been waiting for this moment too long, and it overwhelmed him. I felt it in the way he gripped the sheets, the way his hips faltered, too fast, too raw, too full of everything he hadn't said. I wrapped around him, not to guide, just to hold. He twitched again, sharp, helpless, and buried his face into my neck with a groan that sounded too close to grief. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to." I pulled him closer. "Don't apologize," I said, barely audible. "Just stay." After a while, he whispered, "I'm going to hate myself for this, aren't I?" I ran my hand through his hair. "You're not the only one." He didn't move. Neither did I. There wasn't anything left to say. We'd crossed the line again, only this time there was no pretending we could walk it back. The next morning, I found him asleep on his side, one arm flung across my pillow, his breath slow and soft. He looked young, too young for the things we'd done, too young for the kind of shame sitting like stone in my chest. I got up quietly, slipped into a robe, and went downstairs, made coffee I didn't want, and stared out the window while the machine hummed behind me. I could still feel him, the imprint of his fingers on my hip, the weight of his chest, the quiet desperation in the way he moved, like he thought this might be the only time he'd be allowed to want like that, and I'd let him. I told myself it had been about helping him, about giving comfort, but the truth was, there'd been a moment last night when he looked at me, wide-eyed and shaking, and I didn't see someone I needed to fix. I saw someone who wanted me, and I let that be enough. When he came downstairs, his hair was messy and his shirt clung crooked to his chest. He looked at me like he wasn't sure if he should speak. "You want coffee?" I asked, my voice tighter than it needed to be. He nodded. "Yeah, please." I poured him a cup, slid it across the counter. Our fingers barely touched. He didn't flinch. We stood in silence. Then he said, "I didn't mean to stay." I nodded. "I know. I didn't even know what time it was." "It's fine." He sipped. "Is it?" I looked up at him, tried to smile. "Of course not." He exhaled a sharp laugh. "Right." The call came on a Tuesday. Janine, Evan's mother. She was crying before I even got a word in. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said, her voice trembling, "but I think something's going on again. He's pulling away." "I can feel it." My stomach dropped. "He won't talk to me," she continued, "and I know he still sees you sometimes, right?" "You'd tell me if something was wrong." I swallowed hard. My mouth went dry. "He's been quiet lately," I managed. "I think he's just tired." She exhaled. "I hate seeing him like this. I thought we were making progress." I told her I'd check in, that I'd let her know if I saw anything concerning. I hung up, sat down at the edge of the bed, and stared at the floor for 20 minutes. The guilt didn't just sit in my chest anymore, it bloomed. It was in the way I avoided my reflection, the way I jumped every time my phone buzzed, the way I couldn't meet Evan's eyes the next time he walked through my door. "Your mom called," I said before I could stop myself. He froze. "What did she say?" "That she's worried, that you're slipping." He ran a hand over his face. "Jesus." "I didn't tell her anything. I know." He sank into the couch, hands laced behind his head, exhaling through his teeth. "She thinks I'm back on pills." "Are you?" His head snapped toward me. "No." I nodded quietly, relieved, but the silence that followed was worse. He stood, started pacing. "Maybe we should stop," he said suddenly. I didn't respond. "I mean it. Maybe this isn't helping me." "Maybe it's keeping me sick." His voice cracked on the word sick. "Evan," I started. "No, listen," he said. "Every time I think I'm getting better, I end up back here. With you. Like it's the only thing that makes me feel human again." I took a shaky breath. "Then why does it feel like you're blaming me for that?" He stopped. Looked at me. "Because I don't know how else to survive it." That was when I knew he wasn't pulling away because he didn't want me. He was pulling away because he did, and it scared him more than his addiction ever did. That night, after he left without touching me, I told myself I would end it, that I'd text him, ask for space, do the responsible thing. Instead, I opened my front door at midnight when I heard his knock. He didn't speak. He just stepped inside and kissed me like it might be the last time. We didn't make it upstairs. We didn't need to. It was rougher that time. Hungrier. Like we both knew we were drowning, and the only way out was deeper in. After, we lay on the floor tangled in the throw blanket, sweat drying cold on our skin, neither of us speaking. "I can't breathe when you're not around," he said. I turned toward him. "That's not love. That's dependence." "I know," he said, "but it's all I've got." The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen table. "I need to go before I ruin you. Please don't hate me for needing space to figure myself out. You were the first good thing in a long time, and that's why I have to walk away." It was folded in half, his handwriting crooked and rushed. There was no goodbye. Just a signature, E. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I haven't heard from him. Not a call, not a text. Sharon stopped by yesterday. Said he found a place upstate, that he checked himself into a long-term program on his own. I nodded, smiled, and told her I was proud of him. She hugged me in the driveway, said, "I don't know what you said to him, but thank you. Whatever you did, it worked." I smiled again, lips pressed too tight, and watched her leave. I haven't told a soul. Not about the nights, not about the porch. Not about the way his voice made my hands stop shaking. I see him sometimes, in the shadow by the window. In the echo of a laugh I hear at the grocery store. I feel him when I lie in bed and run my hand along the empty side of the mattress. I wonder if he thinks about me, if he resents me, if he still remembers how I held him trembling and didn't let go. I wonder if he'll come back. If he does, I don't know if I'll open the door, but I know this: I've lived with guilt before, but not like this. Not when it tasted like comfort, not when it made me feel more alive than I had in years. What would you have done in Clara's situation? Press 1. If this story made you think. Thank you for listening, and remember to subscribe for more stories that explore the hidden corners of the human heart.